Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Orlando, and we have flippers that are going into bankruptcy, right? We have flippers that are, how can I say, in over their heads in this market. Let's watch this video and go over how you cannot be one of these guys who watch Flipper and Fix and think they can become a millionaire.
Where is this wood? What is this?
Leah Wensink has been renovating and reselling homes for 7 years.
Nope, see? Garbage. This is a huge step outside my comfort zone. I don't know if I will make any money on this house.
The house she's working on is located here in East Tennessee.
This is definitely the most I've ever paid for a flip.
Does that have you worried?
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's out of her comfort zone. She's been doing this for about 7 years, and she is right now out of her comfort zone. She's paid more than she has ever paid for a flip. Now, you would think to yourself, why would you do that? Why would you go out of your comfort zone? Why would you go and buy a property that you don't even know if you're going to make money on? Well, she's taking a risk. And this is what I'm saying, guys. I know a lot of you guys watch these crazy reality shows on HGTV and on television, and you think it's easy to flip properties. It is not an easy situation to flip properties at all. You have to know what you're doing. But let's continue.
And I love them so much because they're lightweight.
Wensink says she bought this home for around $170,000 and spent another 30 grand renovating it, with more expenses to come.
It should fit.
She said she won't list it for less than $350,000.
I am very worried about being able to sell the house for what I need in order to compensate for my time. I think it is getting a lot tighter to try to meet your margin if you have it, like a margin in goal. That's good.
That's because of rising costs.
Okay. First of all, you should have a margin. Let me tell you what, if you're going to do flip and fix, you should have a margin in mind, right? You should know exactly how much you need to spend, how much you need to sell it for, how much you're going to make. Let's just get that out of the way. You must have that. If you don't do that, that is a recipe for disaster, right? That is a situation where you are probably going to lose money on it. But you see in this situation, she's been, like I said, she's been doing this for 7 years, and yet she is still unsure because of the market and how constrained it's getting. She doesn't know where the top is, and that is a big issue. If you don't know where the top is and you're just blindly, guys, bidding on properties, fixing the properties up, and then saying that I hope I can sell it for this much, don't do that. Don't do that. Because here's the thing. I just want to add a little bit more before we move on. There are holding costs, guys. You still have to pay the mortgage, and you're paying interest on that mortgage. And more than likely, it's a high interest rate mortgage. We're talking 10, 11, 12% interest rates, interest only loans. Now, figure that out.
Home prices, materials, and labor have all spiked in the last year.
Flippers, they're affected pretty dramatically by supply chain and labor issues in the market.
Todd Tita is an executive at Adam Data Solutions, which puts out a quarterly report on the house flipping market.
Flipping is becoming increasingly more difficult, and good operators are going to have to create value by rehabbing their homes intelligently, buying at a discount.
Always buy at a discount, guys. If you are an investor, that should be your number one thing. Always buy properties at a discount if you can. At the very best, buy them what they are worth, but never overpay. Never overpay, guys. We don't want to do that. But what this gentleman was saying earlier is a lot of these guys are going to have to decide, what do you want to put into your properties? A lot of times people would go into properties and just throw the most ridiculous stuff of what their taste is into a property, not your middle of the road stuff. They were putting luxury things in, luxury sinks, luxury this, marble this, countertops, granite, all those things based on their taste, not based on how much it costs to put into the property and what you can sell the property for. If you put, and I say this all the time, guys, if you put marble, gold, all throughout the house, it doesn't matter. Because you know why? Because comps matter versus what you put into the property. It can be laced with gold, and it would still be worth what the house down the street sold for, guys. Just remember that.
Opposed to just riding the wave of rising prices like everybody else has been doing for the last 18 months.
Yes. Wensink says working in a smaller community gives her an advantage.
Coming to a smaller town allows me to feel like I'm not so competitive with everyone. I'm hoping that there's not going to be a ton of people coming in and trying to take over and just buying every house and flipping it.
Yeah, I totally understand where she's coming from, where you kind of move over to a smaller town, but you have to be careful because you don't know if the radius is going to extend to the smaller town to make that money. But here's the thing, she's doing flip and fixes, so she has to already determine, okay, these houses are going to be sold for X amount of dollars. You can't fix up a property and then hope that since Nashville is doing hot, that this small town 30 miles outside of Nashville is going to do well. That's not necessarily the case. Small towns, they're small for a reason. People will buy houses because they're trying to not pay the prices of the big city. So, you know, selling a house for $350,000, it doesn't sound like it's going to make out like she wants it to. So she may have to take a discount on that. Competition is there for a reason. It's because it's hot. Competition outside of it, not so hot.
Ma'am, I don't think for me it would be possible to flip a house in Nashville. I just don't think I have the capital. I don't think I'd have the resources or ability to compete. I just don't think it's possible.
So here in Nashville, I'd say that there's a really high number of flips.
Matt Eden flips houses part-time in Madison, Tennessee, a Nashville suburb.
My first flip was only a little over a year ago, and I definitely learned a ton through that process.
Okay, so he's flipping in Nashville, and he's taking an approach where he's gonna try to get the houses that people, necessarily investors, don't even want. They don't even want to mess with. But he's gonna stay in the city of Nashville. I like that strategy a lot more, even though I'm not a flip guy, right? I'm not a flip and fixer. That's just not my thing. I'm a buy and hold guy, right? But that would seem a little bit more doable than going outside of a hot area where you know you can sell the property versus going to a smaller town where who knows what you'll get out of it, especially a smaller town that's that far out. That just seems a little bit out of range there. So I totally understand why he's doing that. But you will learn a lot by doing flip and fixes. You're gonna learn construction, you're gonna learn dealing with contractors, you're gonna learn a lot. So if this is your thing, pay attention.
So we're at a flip here in Madison. We just closed on this about a week ago. Every flip really has its different issues. Woo. Most of mine have some sort of substantial damage. This is probably one of the worst. So we're gonna be headed over to another one of my flips. The inspector is there. He inspects the work to ensure that it's complete, and then he gives me the next draw of money from the lender.
Did you hear what he said? He said substantial damage, and then like half of the house is ripped off. I mean, that's a lot of damage, But when you do flips, this seems to be the norm. If you are in that kind of a competitive area and you're picking houses that people normally don't want. Now, obviously, this won't be for everyone, right? But you most likely will run into houses like this where the floor has holes in it, where half of the wall is knocked out. You know, you can see outside. Maybe there's weeds and stuff growing in the inside of the house. Maybe there's mold, mildew, all types of stuff that are in these houses that you have to take care of, get fixed up, make it livable, and that's where you're gonna make your money, right? But, but if you do not have the experience, if you do not have the money and the capital to back this up and to understand and know the things that can possibly come up, I promise you, you will be in for a rude awakening. A rude awakening. You have to be prepared for this stuff. And as far as he was talking about the tranches that you would basically get from the lender, that's totally understandable. When I do loans for people who do flip and fixes, you have to first go in and do the work. You send in the inspector. The inspector's gonna say everything's okay, everything's coded the way it's supposed to be, that everything meets code, and that everything's, you know, good to go, built right, done what it's supposed to do. And then from that point on, I will then release the second tranche or third tranche or wherever they are. It's a tier level system of releasing money to them. So remember that, guys. If you are a flipper, you do not get the money all at once. You get it in sections.
The toughest part about being a flipper is really the unknown and the what if. What if we open the walls and there's major termite damage? What if I have to switch contractors mid-job? Really the anxiety, I guess, of flipping is probably the hardest part.
And new electrical panel.
You have to be pretty adventurous from a financial perspective. You have to be willing to accept a little bit of risk.
I love how he says, you have to be a little adventurous on the financial side. What does that mean, adventurous? And then he says, a little risk after he says adventurous on the financial side. That sounds like a lot of risk to me. I mean, that's just me. It sounds like a lot of risk. But here's the thing, guys. He said some things like, it's the unknown that really bothers him. You know, open up the wall. There may be, you know, pests and all types of stuff. You may get a contractor that doesn't finish. Let me tell you a quick story, guys. I had a situation where a customer, a borrower, we gave them money to complete a fix and flip, right? And we were giving them in levels, right? You get the money in sections, as I stated before. What ended up happening is the contractor ended up taking the money and stealing it from them. Stealing the money. So the borrower gives me a call and says, hey, Orlando, what can we do about the contractor stealing the what's name? Can you give me more money? I can't do anything. You signed a contract with me saying that this contractor that you chose was a legitimate contractor, and we sent the money for him to fix up the stuff. And then we sent him another level and he stole that money. That's not our issue. That's your responsibility. Now, what happened to her? She end up stopping the whole project and just let it go into foreclosure. That can happen in fix and flips, guys. I just want to tell you that story because not to scare you not to do it, but just so you know the risks that can be at hand when it comes to fix and flips, just like anything else.
The downside risk for a flipper is price declines. We don't see that happening. What we do see happening is leveling out. Some markets may show some decline, some softness. It's all going to come down to experienced flippers knowing how much to rehab a home and then pricing it correctly.
And here's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. People think to themselves, being a flipper in a hot market is the best time to be a flipper. Yeah, that is for experienced flippers, but it's not so much for people who are just getting into the game to be a flipper because you're buying high and then you're adding value to it and then you're going to try to sell it higher. Didn't Zillow and a bunch of these other guys try to do the exact same thing and failed? That's what I'm talking about. And then here's another thing. Beginners will always go in there and overprice stuff, overput items in the house, do the most expensive things because they believe that that will bring people to buy the property faster. Well, people will want the property. They just will want it at the price. The price of the houses on the street, not the price of that you want for, you know, your mini mansion. They're not going to pay that price. They're going to pay $150 because all the other houses sold for $150. They're not going to pay $250 because you put all nice expensive things in there.
We've got about $700,000 worth of debt at the moment.
But you're not worried about it, or?
No, I'm not worried about it simply because I know what the properties are going to be worth once they're done, and I don't see the bottom falling out of this market anytime soon.
And that is how you get into trouble. I get it that he doesn't see the bottom falling out of the market. Nashville is a hot market, but it has to slow down at some point. We're getting interest rates are being raised, which means that values have to come down. That's just the way it works. Interest rates go up, value goes down. That is just the way it is, guys. That's the way it happens. For him to say he doesn't see the bottom getting taken out, I could see that. Maybe it's not going to probably crash, but values are going to decrease, and you better get rid of the hot potato before you're left holding it.
Just take your time and hit it in the center. I'm always worried that there's going to be a recession, and then what value will this be? But at least still I'm like, well, it's still you're holding property, which is at least going to have some value in this world, I hope. So I have to try to take comfort in that. I try to talk myself off the ledge a lot.
So what she's saying is that, hey, at the end of the day, I'm still left with an asset, which is very true. And that asset does have value, but it may not have the amount of value that you believe it should have or the amount of value that you put into it. And that is the issue with fix and flips. With a buy and hold situation, you can get into this same situation, don't get me wrong, but you know exactly what's in the property. You're basing it off of rental. Someone else is paying your mortgage. There's a bunch of ways to slice up real estate, and this is just one way. Now, we're not bashing on individuals who want to do fix and flip. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this is a situation where you have to learn and do your research. We all know education is key. And for fix and flips, this is no different, guys. So I hope you got value out of this content. I'm gonna need you to watch this next video here. It will help you get into your first rental property and learn all things financial. And make sure you join the community. The membership link is down in the description, and I hope to see you there. Thanks.